This one's going to be a little bit different approach. I'm going to put these two together and turn them into one piece. So if you were doing this on paper, you would just use a larger piece of paper and trace them off side by side. And leave enough room, full scale. I'm probably going to add 12 inches to it, so it's a longer skirt. Okay. And I want to save this one. So that's just going to be the easier way for me to flip it. Modify, combine those two lines, and modify, set, rotate. Okay. So I want to measure the width of my skirt. And that's 18 1/4. And I'd kind of like a little bit of extra ease, so I'm going to move this line out so that it's 18 1/2. I'm looking for the calculator. $18.5 minus 18.275.225. So I'm going to draw the line further out by a little less than 1/4 of an inch. Okay. It's easier to do the math when it's an even number. Okay, so 18 1/2. I want to turn this into a 12 gore skirt, so I need 6 between the front and the back. If I have 6 spaces, I'm adding 5 lines. So 18.5 divided by 6 is 3.083. Ew. Okay. So I'm going to measure 3 point a tiny bit and draw lines that are evenly spaced. If you find it easier to make it even slightly larger, you're welcome to do that. Create offset even. Okay, so I've got a new thing over here. I want to select a reference location. I want perpendicular notches, and this time I want 5 lines. So I'm going to choose this line to offset and say OK. And I'm going to say minus 3.08. And there they are. But 3.08 isn't perfect, is it? Well, we're going to call it perfect. Modify line, move. I know, I'm always telling you to be a perfectionist. And you would want to be precise. Okay, so I've got my 6 even spaces. It's really close to what the center would be. And I now need to know how much darting I have, and I need to divide that by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well, that should have been easy. But I'm going to divide the skirt into separate sections along here. So I'm going to measure the dart openings, including the side seam, and add them all together and divide them by 12. Verify line length. And the calculator again. Did I close that? One 0.628 plus 1.959 plus 0.910 plus 0.940. So you use what you get and divide it by 12 equals 0.453. All right, so I am also, some people would just do it straight across. You are welcome to just make this line straight across if that's what you want to do, and pretend that all of your darts are the same length. And then your skirt is going to just be, you can wear it any direction. It won't matter which way you put it on. So if I were going to do that, I'm basing it off of the size that I already have, but I could make it completely symmetrical all the way around, or I could make each piece different. Modify adjust line length is going to take it on the trajectory that it already is. So I could use the bottom of this line on each section at the bottom, but that would mean I would need to label all of them separately. So if you were just going to do one skirt all the same level, then you could do that. But since we're going to make it a high-low skirt anyway, I'm not going to do it that way. So if this is knee length, and this is where my darts are going to end, I want to decide where my flare is going to start. And I could start it up here. I could start it lower. I think this is about where the picture of the one in the book starts in back. But you can put your break point anywhere you want it. So I'm going to end my darts at those locations on those lines that I've created. So I'm planning and I'm setting up a map. I'm going to call this my map. And I want the flare to start probably almost parallel to that other line. And if I want this to be longer, create line offset even. So I'm going to add 12. You could go longer. Well, now what did I do? Oh, there it is. That's a lot longer. Okay, so half scale, that would be 6. Modify line swap. And I should have done that before. Modify line adjust. So I'm just going to pull all of my lines down. Oh, I chose the wrong one. If we wait till I get perfect videos, we will be waiting a long time. Okay, so you can put this wherever you want. I've got my breakpoint just below the behind. You could move your breakpoint lower than that and have a straighter skirt. In fact, I can move this line further down. I think I want it further down. Okay, so I have my map and I need to decide the best way .453. So that's just less than a half an inch. And I'm going to go back and create offset lines again. So I'm going to offset this one. Negative 0.453. Negative 0.453. Oh, but I didn't switch the number of offsets. I only want one, so I'm going to undo that. Hopefully you learn from my little mistakes and oh, I can offset all of them at once. Negative 0.453. That's what I wanted. And now this line the original lines, I want to have them go the other way. And negative 0.453 again. Say OK. Alright, that didn't turn out the way I expected. It only moved this one. So we don't need lines all the way down, but that was just faster for me. So now we're going to turn those into evenly spaced darts. So I'm going to go back and create 2-point lines. And from the top of this line, that was the new one that I just created that was offset 0.453, I'm going to come down and join that line. And then this new line, and I think I'm just going to go with an even top and come down my center line to make the bottom of the dart, choose the line again and come back and end at the top. So the center line is the point, and I'm connecting to the line every time because then it's going to let me trace it off easier. So connect to one of the far lines, come down the center line. Oop, not that. Connect to that same line you just made and then end up at the top. And if I wanted to, I could be more particular about using the original skirt line, but we're making enough changes. I think this is okay. So we have taken the original amount of darting, divided it evenly around the skirt, so each section is going to be exactly the same width, and then they'll have flare starting from here. So I'm going to delete some of those helper lines because I don't want to be confused by them and trace them off. So modify, delete line. I'm going to delete the two on the outer edge of those darts that I just made at the top. And if I were using paper, I would have only drawn the line at the top. So apparently what I did that time that I couldn't see the lines was I added a duplicate set on top and I couldn't see them. Okay, there we are. So this is our map. I'm going to save this as my map. I'm also going to send it to the menu. Look at that. So if I want to turn it again, but I don't need to turn it again. I also don't need that line. Okay. So I'm going to separate this into sections before I add my flare at the bottom. So it's going to be kind of like a trumpet skirt or a tulip skirt where the bottom has a lot of flare. So I'm going to trace off each of these pieces individually, and I think before I do, I'm going to add an annotation to each of them. So number your skirt pieces, and it will be easier in the long run to know how they go back together. And I would do that on paper too. Okay, so now I'm going to trace it off on my new lines. Create piece trace. And I would do that on paper too. I would leave the existing map intact because this can get kind of confusing. And I'm also going to mark those lines. So there's my number one. Oh, well, that's unfortunate. Oh, I guess they'll all have the number in the right spot. Front and back, piece number one. And then the next one, the same thing. And it gets a little tricky to see where you're tracing it off. So on the next one, I will zoom in. Number two. Okay, when I'm tracing off this piece, I'm tracing the side of the piece, then I want the taper right here, the top, this taper, and then the other side, and the bottom. I need to move it. Okay, so I've got my first three. I've got three more to go. And zooming in again, create piece trace, the side of the piece, which is a common line. The side of number 4 is a common line with number 3. And that new tapered line, the common line with number 5, the hem, and those two. And that one was number 4. The common line between 4 and 5, the taper into 5, the top, the other taper into 5, the common line between 5 and 6, and the hem. And then the 2 lines. And don't forget to get those 2 lines. And that's number 5. Common line, taper in, top, taper in, side, hem. Okay. And number 6. Okay. And of course, you know how to pause me and listen to me at double speed. I can't handle listening to me at regular speed. Has to be double speed. Okay, so I've got all of my pieces, and I need to do something about all of those extra lines because I keep picking up on them and I don't want to. So my map I'm through with. That I'm through with for now. And I guess, well, let's clip those lines. Modify line, clip. I want to keep this line until it touches this one. This line until it touches that one. This line until it touches that one. That one. And then we're going to have to do something about all of those annotations. So if you want to pause and do this at your own speed, you're going to need to delete the rest of those, and that would be under delete annotation, and just choose all of the numbers that aren't in the middle of the piece, and that's how you would do that. Okay, I'm going to spread mine out so they're easier to get hold of. Modify line, clip. This is such good clipping practice. You can only clip dotted lines. If it won't clip on the downside, switch to the upper side. Choose the part you want to keep and then this area to clip at. So select the line on the side to keep. Choose the intersecting line to clip at. The part you want to keep and the intersecting line. Okay, now the annotations. Delete annotation. And you have 5 to delete for each little piece. And they switch sides of the piece. Just don't delete the annotation that's in the middle of the piece. And now I'm wishing I had made them bigger, and you can delete them all at once. That's handy. Okay, I think I got them all. So there's a reason we've got this line here. That's where the flare starts. And if you want to see that one in the book, I don't know what page it's on right now, but it's in the skirt chapter and you'll recognize it. Well, that doesn't go there. That is, number 2. 3, 4, 5. Okay, I've got them in the right order now. Okay, so now I want to decide how much flare I want to add. Oh, and I did forget one little thing. Maybe you noticed. So I'm going to line them back up. Modify, set, rotate. And you can watch this. And then come back because, you know, it's me. Get the corner to highlight with a square. Cancel. We're going to make this a high-low skirt, and we have to choose where the hem is going to be. So maybe in back we want it to be this long, but in front we want it to end here. So I'm going to just draw that line and choose where I want it to end. And you can put it anywhere you want to. Create line, copy. No. I wondered what I did wrong. Create line, copy. I want to copy this line, and I want it to go on all of the pieces, and say OK, and then cancel. So I did it again, didn't I? I don't want to start the video over. If I wait until I get all of the videos perfect, you will never see a video. This is the first one, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So, why did I do that before I explained? Okay. So, we're going to create flare on this so that this one flares out at the front and it flares out on the side, and each one is going to flare the same amount so that they're balanced. If you wanted to, you could put more flare in back gradually than in front, but that is complicating things. So how much flare do I want to add? If I add 2 inches to each piece, that's going to be an additional 4 inches of flare per piece times 12. That's a lot of extra flare. So I am going to go ahead and add 2 inches to each section. So the reason that we've got the line here to aim to is that we're going to come straight out from the line on both sides and add the flare from here and add the flare from here. So if I just pick up this piece, okay, I just want piece number 1. So I'm picking up piece number 1, I'm going to move it further away and I'm going to clip that one. Modify, clip, choose the line till it crosses over there. Okay. So this part on this piece is going to disappear, and I'm going to offset the line on both sides 2 inches. So if you were using paper, you wouldn't have to do all that. You would just measure out 2 inches right here and measure out 2 inches right here. So I'll finish this piece, and if you've got it figured out, then you can fast forward until the end when I show you how to fix the hem. Okay, create line offset. Both sides. I want to come out 2 inches, so I'll switch to value and say 2. And I did them both at the same time, and that's handy. I would have rather had it up here, but it works. So I'm going to create a 2-point line from here to here, and one from here to here. So when I trace this piece off, this is going to go away and my front is going to be shorter. So create piece trace, I end up with this, and I might have to split something, but there it is. That's what I want. I need to do that same thing to every piece. So I'm just going to overwrite this one and call that 1. And say OK. So if I delete this one without saving it, it will be gone forever because this one has the name now. So I'm going to move that one out of the way. This is piece number 1. Do I still have my number 1 on there? Yes, I do. And if you're going to move on, you'll want to know that right here I don't want sharp lines. So I want to leave that there and put notches so that it's easier to line them up. So I'm going to go ahead and just finish this one piece, add a notch on all 4 of those places, and then I'm going to merge my line, combine, so you're going to want to do that to each piece. But when we come back, we're going to have to line them up and smooth out the waist and line them up and smooth out the hem of the skirt. The other thing that I'll do right here so that they don't tear is use my curve and just oh, but it's got that nice notch there. Well, we'll see how we feel about that when we get to the end. So that's what I'm going to do to all of the pieces. So now I don't want piece number 1. Uh-oh. Well, that's interesting. I want piece number 2. Modify line clip. Create line offset even. I wonder if I touch this part of the line. This one and this one. Okay. Value 2. Nope, it still did the same thing, and that time it cut off short, so I'm going to have to... Oh, Louise. Well, I like what it did the first time better. Oh dear. So you could probably figure out how to extend that 2 inches and not have to do all the things that I just did. But that's the way I would do it if it was paper. I'd measure out 2 inches and draw a line from here to here. And start from the angle change and go to the line, and then start from where they cross over each other and come back to that line. You could probably swap it. Oh, that's so nice. So, ah, well, that's not very nice. So I'm going to be doing modify piece that rotate over here. So I would choose the match point where the notch is and that line, and choose this match point and that line. And you can see how the hem isn't very smooth, and we'll just keep stacking them up and probably come from this point around to there, but you'll have a whole bunch of them. And don't forget the notches. Okay. So I'm just going to leave that this time. Create line, offset even, both lines, switch to value, touch a line and say 2. Modify, adjust. I wonder what the difference is. That first one was just really handy. It's easier if you go with the inside line. And slide to the end. Clear. Modify, set rotate. That common point with that common point and cancel. So Create line, offset even, switch to value, choose both sides, right click, say OK, and type in 2. Create 2-point line, start there, and where those cross over each other. Trace it off. Part of me wants to just stop talking because I figure you're tired of hearing me say all of the same thing all the time. But you know how to mute me, so. And fast forward. Modify, set, rotate. Cancel. Piece number 5. I'm going to clip this time. Modify, clip. Offset even. Type in 2. I could have done them all at once. I was hoping, but no. Modify, adjust line length. Switch to cursor. It's a lot of repetition. It's a lot of repetition on paper, too. Ah. No. You can change the length of solid lines, too, and that's kind of dangerous. Create 2-point. So every time we do this, the skirt is getting longer. But that's the idea. So if you separate them enough, you could do that all in one movement, because I got the last 2. But that's a lot of lines on the screen, and sometimes it's hard to grab them when they're all that close together. Create piece trace. Okay. Modify set rotate. That common point that they all have. From the original line. Okay. So that's the bottom of our skirt. If you want it to be a jagged edge, you could leave that alone. If you decided to do that, though, you would want to put a matching notch on the piece, on the longer piece, to match the short one on all of them. And we've got lots of notches to put on. So you want a pair, one on each side. And you want one down the back because there's going to be another back piece. And we're also going to need to put them at the top, but I can't find those right now. Okay, so you'd zoom in. If you were going to leave it, you would put the notch on the longer piece to match where the shorter one needs to come to, all the way around. And I don't know that I can do this as a 2-point curve, but we'll try it. So you can choose your curve shape. I'm thinking I'm just going to go with oh dear. The other thing, we haven't played in circles for a while. 3 points for a circle. 1, 2, 3. Oh, well, look at that. I think I'd rather have it further out, though. So I just chose the bottom edge of the hem, and I could fill it in. I'm going to undo it, though. So circles, 3-point, bottom edge of the longer ones. And then you wouldn't have to make this one come down that long, but that would be a way to blend the back ones. You can always split the difference too, so that's up to you. Create line, copy. I want to copy this line, and I want it to go on the first 5 pieces. I'm not going to leave it on the first one, but So the distance that this comes down, what is that? Modify line split. Verify measure line length, 2.66. So if I came down 2.66 and curved this line up into it, then that might be matching. I could leave it coming to a point up here and just have it blend from there, but I don't know that I want the center front of my skirt to be a point. So I think I'm just going to decide how I want to do my center front, and you can decide how you want to do your center front. And I can't touch, well, yes I can. I want piece number 1, this one. So I'm going to add a line that comes down and disappears inside of there, and then I'm going to use create 2-point perpendicular, and I'm just going to come down and pull that out and kind of blend into that. You can do whatever you want. I'm guessing. I don't know. Okay, that's how I'm going to end mine. But you can come down here, you can do whatever you want. That's a design choice. Clear all, cancel, moving that piece. They all have their own circle. That's just crazy. Wow, I have created a mess for myself there, haven't I? Okay. I need to split this line and swap that for it. Modify line split. I'm going to split it just a little bit on the outside and see what happens so you don't have to gamble. Modify line swap. But you know, if you're just using paper, then you just draw your line and they're all fine. Oh, there it is. Excellent. So now I can delete all of those. Delete line. There. Modify line split. I'm splitting them because, oh, and that one's going to be okay. Modify line swap. I'm splitting them because sometimes it doesn't know where to end if you don't split them. Oh, and that's my front, so I'm going to need to yeah, I don't like it when I don't finish my sentences either. It's annoying. Okay. Modify, swap. This section plus this section for this one. It worked. Delete line. Well, you know how often I have things that don't work. Okay, I'm getting too spread out on my screen. I think I better well, that'd be dangerous too. Okay, those are probably far enough apart, but I'm splitting both sides of the line because that is a very long line. So I'm splitting it near both ends of the skirt. That I want. Uh-oh, I don't want that one. What did I do? Split again. I'm going to need to delete some lines. Swap. Oh, now that will that work? Wow. Sometimes you get lucky. Okay, I'm going to send all of these pieces to the menu because okay. You don't want to get that far out. So there are my pieces. And they all actually have the correct grain line on them. So I'm going to realign all the pieces. And when I do that, they'll eventually realign up there. Okay, I need a couple of notches across there. Create notch. That already has a notch. That does not. So when the line splits are consistent like that, it can be kind of handy to just leave them and add notches. Okay, now this is the stray center of a circle, so I want to delete that as though it were a line. Okay, so you might want to put more notches in, but that's adequate. And this is number 1, and that's number 2, so I'm going to come back and do set rotate just to see how they look. Lining it up at that notch. Cancel. And that's number 3, so this one is extra credit. Oh, and I wasn't careful. That's number 6. This one as a skirt pattern would be extra credit because there's a lot to it. But this is just an example of how to do a skirt. This one is not specifically an assignment. It's just one of the many skirts in the book that you can choose to do. Or incorporate into a final project. So this would end up level across the front and then drop down. I don't know that I'm happy with it. I think I want to blend it a little bit more right there, but otherwise, now we need to do the same thing with the waist going the other direction. And I probably would blend between those 2 points. And copy that line to both pieces and just change them both so it was a little smoother. Okay, so you could go through and delete those diagonal lines. And now instead of lining up the bottom of the skirt, you'd be lining up the top. And that's either easier or not easier on paper. You just line them up exactly, starting at the top. And you can see how they're angular, and if you try and sew it into a waistband that way, this is going to pull up and cause a wrinkle on all of them. So I would probably do the same thing I did before and create a circle. So I'm going to wait till I finish getting them together. It's a little tricky. You wait till the piece you want to highlight highlights, and then touch down and hold and slide until you get to the other point and cancel. So touch while it's highlighted, slide to the point, touch while that's highlighted, slide to the point, So even though I'm not right on top of the piece, as long as it's highlighted, I'm going to, oh, well now that isn't what I wanted at all. That's what happens when I get talking. That's better. Okay, so I could draw a curve right there, but what I really want to do is have it touch the center of all these and not the corners. Well, I could touch the corners, but I want it to dip down slightly so that I have a right angle between the two and not a sharp point. So create, come back to circles, 3-point, so I'm going to touch, will that work? The midpoint on this one, but that's in the way now. And maybe the midpoint right there. Oh, yeah. So that looks really nice because that's going to give us a right angle on each end. So I would copy that line to all of the pieces. Create line, copy, line to copy, right click. All the pieces. Which one is it attached to? And I'm touching down when the piece is highlighted, even though I'm not touching the right piece. And cancel. And then you can separate them and just swap that line for the original and your skirt is finished. After you add seam allowance. Oh, but it would have been smart if I had clipped the line a little bit, wouldn't it? See, that's why I clip. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. Oh, modify split line. So you just trap it. Modify line swap. Well, that isn't what I wanted either. That must be where the end of the circle is. This one I might have to trace off, but I think that's just the placement on the circle. We'll try it one more time. Oh, I'm not doing clockwise and in order. That worked that time. Okay, I'm playing now, so add seam allowance after you've finished fixing everything, and this one's done. I think I'm getting tired. Save. Piece to menu. They look like keys on a key ring. That one didn't get one. That one did. That one did. Okay. So I'm just going to copy this one onto that one. This skirt takes a whole class period when I'm explaining it in person, so if it's taken you a while, don't feel bad about it. Well, the curve went away when I did that. I'm not sure that's working the way I want it to. Sometimes strange things happen when you split lines. So I've just cleaned up things, made sure that my lines were merged. Modify line, combine. I've got notches. I hope you're watching this at double speed. We don't need that notch the way I did it. So they're all fixed now. And I'm going to bring these back down and add them to a model. But I like to see the map. So please include the map. Okay,